As we continue our journey into peaceful rest, allow your breath to become slower, more natural, like the gentle rhythm of ancient temple life. We are approaching the gates of a sacred monastery, a place where wisdom has been cultivated for over 1,000 years. Picture yourself walking along a winding stone path that curves through misty mountains. The morning air is crisp and clean, filled with the subtle fragrance of jasmine and sandalwood incense. Each step connects you deeper to this moment of tranquility. As you round the final bend, magnificent wooden gates come into view. These ancient portals stand tall and weathered, their dark timber polished smooth by countless seasons, and the gentle touch of pilgrims who have passed through them seeking peace. Intricate carvings of lotus flowers and dragons dance across the surface, telling stories of enlightenment and transformation that have been shared for generations. Sitting peacefully beside these gates on a simple wooden bench beneath a spreading Bodhi tree is an elderly monk. His presence radiates such profound serenity that even the birds seem to quiet their songs in respect. His robes, the color of autumn leaves, flow around him like gentle water. His eyes are closed, not in sleep, but in the deepest meditation, his face wearing the expression of someone who has found perfect contentment. The old monk's breathing is so peaceful, so rhythmic, that you find your own breath beginning to match his gentle pace. Without opening his eyes, the monk speaks, his voice like warm honey flowing over smooth stones. "Welcome, dear traveler. I have been expecting you, though not in the way you might think. Every soul that seeks peace eventually finds its way to these gates. Every heart that yearns for rest discovers this sanctuary. You feel drawn to sit beside him on the bench. The wood is warm from the morning sun that filters through the Bodhi leaves above. As you settle into this peaceful space, the monk continues his gentle teaching. You know these gates have stood here for 800 years. Countless seekers have passed through them. Emperors and farmers, scholars and children, those carrying great burdens and those seemingly free. Yet every single person who has entered has had to learn the same fundamental lesson before they could truly experience the peace within. He pauses, allowing the silence to embrace you both. In this silence, you notice how your shoulders are beginning to relax, how the tension you didn't even realize you were holding is starting to melt away like morning mist. The lesson is in the letting go. You see, most people arrive at these gates carrying invisible luggage, worries about tomorrow, regrets about yesterday, expectations about what should happen next. They clutch these burdens so tightly that their hands cannot receive the gifts that peace offers. The monk's voice grows even softer, more melodious. There was once a merchant who came to these very gates. He had traveled for months seeking a cure for his restless mind. His caravan was loaded with the finest silks, precious gems and golden coins. Yet, when he sat where you sit now, the gatekeeper asked him a simple question. What are you willing to leave behind to enter? The merchant was puzzled. He offered gold, he offered silk, he offered his most precious jewels. But the gatekeeper gently shook his head each time. Finally, the merchant asked in frustration, "What do you want from me?" And the gatekeeper replied, "I want you to leave behind your need to control what happens next. I want you to release your fear that you are not enough as you are. I want you to set down the heavy burden of always having to know the answers." The monk's breathing deepens, and you find yours naturally following. The merchant sat in silence for 3 days and 3 nights, not because he was required to, but because that's how long it took him to truly understand. On the morning of the 4th day, he rose from this very bench, walked to his caravan, and began giving away everything he owned to the villagers below, not out of obligation, but out of pure joy. When he returned to the gates, he carried nothing except a light heart and a peaceful mind. The gatekeepers smiled and opened the gates wide. But here's the beautiful truth. In that moment of complete letting go, the merchant realized he had already found what he had been seeking. The peace he thought was inside the monastery had been within him all along, waiting beneath the layers of worry and wanting. Your breathing's becoming deeper, now more relaxed. The monk continues, "This is the way of the ancient wisdom. We search everywhere for peace, in achievements, in relationships, in acquiring more knowledge or possessions. But true serenity is not something we find by adding to ourselves. It is what remains when we stop trying to be anything other than what we are in this very moment. Feel this truth in your body now. Notice how your heart beats without your effort, how your breath flows without your control, how your body knows exactly how to restore itself in sleep without any instruction from your thinking mind. This is your Buddha nature, the effortless perfection that has always been present." The elderly monk opens his eyes for the first time, and they sparkle with the light of deep compassion. These gates will always be here for you, dear friend, not just in this meditation, but in every moment when you remember to let go, to breathe deeply, to trust the wisdom that flows through you like a gentle river. As you prepare to pass through these ancient portals, remember that you are not entering as a stranger seeking something you lack. You are coming home to yourself, to the peace that has never left you, only sometimes been forgotten beneath the noise of daily life. Rest now in this knowing. Let the gates open not just before you, but within you. Let the monastery walls dissolve into the infinite space of your own peaceful heart. Sleep comes naturally when we stop struggling against it, when we trust the ancient rhythm that has carried countless beings into rest for thousands of years. The monk closes his eyes again, returning to his meditation, his presence a blessing of tranquility that surrounds you like a warm embrace. The gates stand open, welcoming you deeper into this journey of rest and renewal. Now that the ancient gates have opened before you, a beautiful stone path reveals itself, winding gracefully through the heart of this sacred monastery. This pathway has been worn smooth by countless pilgrims over the centuries, each stone polished to a gentle shine by the devotion of those who have walked mindfully upon it. The path curves gently between towering pine trees, whose branches sway softly in the mountain breeze. Dappled sunlight filters through the canopy above, creating patterns of light and shadow that dance peacefully across the walkway. The air is filled with the subtle fragrance of pine needles and the distant scent of burning sandalwood from the temple halls ahead. As you place your first foot upon this sacred ground, you notice something remarkable. The stone beneath your feet seems to radiate a gentle warmth, as if it holds within it the accumulated peace of all who have walked this way before you. Each step connects you not only to this present moment, but to the eternal stream of seekers who have found solace along this very path. Your footsteps naturally become slower, more deliberate. There is no hurry here, no destination to rush toward. The path itself is the teaching. The journey itself is the meditation. With each mindful step, you feel the weight of worldly concerns lifting from your shoulders like autumn leaves falling gently to the ground. An elderly monk appears ahead, walking slowly in the same direction. His movement is so graceful, so perfectly measured, that he seems to glide rather than walk. His feet touch the earth with such reverence that you barely hear the sound of his steps. As you draw closer, he turns and smiles with eyes that sparkle with ancient wisdom. "Welcome to the walking meditation path," he says, his voice soft as morning mist. "This is where we learn one of the most profound teachings of the Buddha, that every step can be a prayer, every breath can be a blessing, every moment can be an awakening." He gestures toward the path ahead with a weathered hand. "You see, dear friend, 2,500 years ago, the Buddha himself walked paths just like this one. He taught that true meditation is not something we do only while sitting in stillness, but something we can carry into every movement, every action of our daily lives." The monk begins walking again, and you naturally fall into step beside him. His pace is so perfectly measured that you find your own breathing automatically synchronizing with the rhythm of your steps. Step, breathe in. Step, breath, E out. Step, breathe in. Step, breathe out. There is an ancient story. The monk continues, his voice flowing like a gentle stream, about a young disciple who was frustrated with his meditation practice. He could sit for hours in perfect stillness, but as soon as he stood up and began moving through his day, all sense of peace and mindfulness seemed to disappear. Your feet continue their slow, mindful progression along the stone path. The rhythm is becoming hypnotic, deeply soothing. Each step seems to carry away another layer of tension from your body. The young disciple approached his master and said, "Teacher, I have mastered sitting meditation, but I cannot maintain awareness when I am active. How can I carry the peace of the meditation hall into the movement of daily life?" The master smiled and invited the student to walk with him to the village market. The monk pauses beside a small shrine built into a natural alcove in the rock wall beside the path. Within the shrine, it's a simple stone carving of a footprint surrounded by offerings of flowers and burning incense. The footprint is larger than a human foot and bears sacred symbols carved deep into the stone. "This is a replica of one of the Buddha's footprints," the monk explains. "According to legend, wherever the Enlightened One walked, he left not just physical impressions in the earth, but spiritual imprints of compassion and wisdom that blessed all who would follow." You pause before the shrine, feeling drawn to place your own foot beside the ancient marking. As you do, a profound sense of connection flows through you. Connection to all beings who have sought peace, to all who have walked this path of awakening, to the timeless wisdom that flows through every moment. As the master and student walked to the market, the monk continues, they passed through crowded streets filled with merchants calling their wares, children playing, animals wandering, all the chaos and beauty of human life. The student grew increasingly agitated, feeling his peaceful mind becoming scattered by all the activity around him. But the master walked on serenely, his face radiant with the same deep peace he maintained in meditation. Finally, the student asked, "Master, how do you maintain such tranquility in the midst of all this distraction?" The master stopped walking and asked his student to look down at his feet. The monk's voice grows even softer, more melodious. The student looked and saw that with each step his master took, he paused for just a moment, allowing his foot to rest completely on the ground before lifting it again. You see, the master explained, I am not walking through the market. I am walking through this step, then this step, then this step. I am not going anywhere except into this present moment. Your own steps have become incredibly slow now, each foot placement a meditation in itself. You feel the stone beneath your sole, the slight shift of weight, the gentle engagement of muscles, the perfect balance that your body maintains without any conscious effort from your mind. The student understood immediately. He began walking like his master, not rushing toward the next step, but fully inhabiting each step as it happened. Suddenly, the noise of the market became like background music to his meditation. The chaos transformed into a dance of life that enhanced rather than disturbed his inner peace. As you continue along the path, you notice small prayer flags strung between the trees, their bright colors fluttering gently in the breeze. Each flag carries mantras and blessings that seem to whisper ancient wisdom as the wind moves through them. The sound is incredibly soothing, like a lullaby from the earth itself. This is the secret of walking meditation, the monk says. We do not walk to get somewhere else. We walk to arrive more fully where we already are. We do not move our feet to escape this moment, but to sink deeper into the eternal now that exists in every step. Your breathing has become so deep and regular now that it feels like the earth itself is breathing through you. Each inhalation draws in the peace of this sacred place. Each exhalation releases any remaining tension or worry into the loving embrace of the natural world around you. Feel how your body knows exactly how to walk without any instruction from your thinking mind. The monk continues. Your feet find their balance automatically. Your legs carry you forward without effort. Your arms swing naturally at your sides. This is your Buddha nature expressing itself through simple movement, effortless, perfect, complete. The path curves around a grove of ancient bamboo, and the sound of the wind through the stalks creates a natural symphony of peace. The gentle clicking and swaying of the bamboo seems to say, rest now, rest now, rest now, with each gentle movement. As we near the end of this portion of our walking meditation, the monk says, remember that you can return to this mindful way of moving anytime you wish. Whether you are walking to work, climbing stairs, or simply moving from room to room in your home, each step can be a return to peace. Each footfall a gentle reminder of the sacred ground that is always beneath your feet. You pause at a wooden bench beside a small fountain where water bubbles softly over smooth stones. The monk settles onto the bench and invites you to rest beside him. Sleep, dear friend, is the ultimate walking meditation. In sleep, your body continues its perfect rhythm without any effort from your conscious mind. Your heart walks its steady beat, your breath walks its natural rhythm, your entire being walks effortlessly through the landscape of rest and renewal. The sound of the gentle fountain mingles with the distant chanting of monks in the temple halls ahead. Your body feels completely relaxed now, every muscle soft and at ease, every breath drawing you deeper into tranquility. Rest now in the knowing that you are always walking the sacred path. Even in sleep, especially in sleep, you continue this meditation of being. Close your eyes and let your dreams carry you deeper into the monastery of peace that exists within your own heart. As you rest peacefully beside the gentle fountain, the sound of soft temple bells begins to resonate through the mountain air. These are not the bold, commanding bells that mark the hours, but gentle chimes that seem to float on the breeze like whispered invitations. The melody draws you forward along the stone path toward the heart of the monastery. Ahead, a magnificent wooden building emerges from between the ancient trees. This is the main meditation hall, its traditional curved roof lines reaching toward the sky like palms pressed together in prayer. The structure appears to have grown from the mountain itself, so perfectly does it blend with the natural surroundings. Dark wooden beams, weathered to a silvery grey by countless seasons, support walls of warm, honey-coloured wood that seem to glow with inner light. The massive doors of the meditation hall stand open, revealing an interior of profound tranquility. As you approach the threshold, the very air seems to change, becoming thicker with peace, saturated with the concentrated silence of thousands of hours of meditation that have taken place within these walls. Your bare feet touch the polished wooden floor of the meditation hall, and immediately you feel the accumulated serenity that has soaked into the very grain of the wood. This floor has supported countless seekers in their journey toward inner peace. Each board seems to hum quietly with the vibrations of deep meditation, creating an almost imperceptible resonance that your body recognizes and welcomes. The hall is vast, yet intimate, with high ceilings that disappear into shadows above. Wooden pillars, massive and ancient, support the structure with such silent strength that they seem like Jian-ti trees that have chosen to hold this sacred space. The walls are unadorned except for their natural beauty, the wood grain flowing like gentle rivers of pattern and texture. Along the walls, meditation cushions are arranged in perfect rows, each one a small island of burgundy and gold in the sea of polished wood. The cushions look as though they have been placed not by human hands, but by some deeper intelligence that knows exactly where each seeker needs to rest. At the far end of the hall, beneath a simple wooden altar, sits a figure so still that at first you mistake him for a statue. This is the silent master, a monk who has been sitting in meditation for so many years that his presence has become as much a part of the hall as the wooden beams and stone foundation. His posture is perfect without effort, his spine rising from his seated position like a mountain peak reaching effortlessly toward heaven. His robes, the color of deep forest shadows, seem to flow around him like still water. His hands rest in his lap in the classic mudra of meditation, thumbs gently touching palms, open to receive whatever the universe offers. The silent master's face is serene beyond description. His features have been carved by years of deep peace into an expression of such profound tranquility that simply looking upon him begins to calm your own mind. His breathing is so subtle that you have to watch carefully to detect the gentle rise and fall of his chest. You find yourself drawn to a cushion directly facing this remarkable being. As you settle onto the soft fabric, your body naturally assumes a comfortable position. The cushion seems designed perfectly for your unique form, supporting you in a posture of alert relaxation that requires no effort to maintain. The silence in the hall is unlike any quiet you have ever experienced. It is not empty silence, but full silence, silence that pulses with life, silence that seems to breathe with its own rhythm. This is the silence that exists between thoughts, the space between heartbeats, the pause between breaths, where infinite peace resides. After what feels like timeless moments, the silent master speaks, though his lips barely move, and his voice is so soft it seems to arise from the silence itself rather than from his throat. "Welcome to the Hall of Clear Water." He whispers his words floating through the space like gentle ripples on a still pond. Here we learn the deepest teaching of all the Buddhist masters, that the mind in its natural state is like perfectly clear water. The analogy settles into your consciousness like a drop of wisdom dissolving in awareness. You begin to sense what he means as your own thoughts naturally slow and become more transparent. Most of the time, the silent master continues, his voice like wind moving through pine needles. Our minds are like muddy water, cloudy with worries, stirred up by desires, muddied by the constant activity of thinking and planning and remembering. We cannot see clearly through such turbulent water. You feel this truth resonating in your body. The mental agitation you brought with you into this sacred space is beginning to settle like sediment, slowly sinking to the bottom of a clear stream. But when we sit in stillness, when we allow ourselves to be completely present without trying to change anything, something miraculous happens. The mud settles, the water clears, and we discover that clarity was always there waiting beneath the disturbance. The silent master's presence seems to emanate waves of tranquility that wash over you like gentle tides. His decades of meditation have created a field of peace so strong that simply being near him helps your own mind settle into deeper stillness. There was once a student who came to this very hall carrying great anxiety about her spiritual progress. The master whispers. She sat where you sit now, frustrated because her mind seemed filled with endless thoughts and were-eyes. She felt she was failing at meditation because she could not make her mind empty and peaceful. The story flows through the hall like incense, fragrant with wisdom and understanding. You sink deeper into your cushion, your breathing naturally slowing to match the rhythm of the master's gentle words. For weeks, she struggled trying to force her thoughts to stop wrestling with her mind like a warrior battling an enemy. But the harder she fought, the more agitated her thoughts became. The water of her consciousness grew muddier and more turbulent with each effort to control it. Your own thoughts are beginning to feel like gentle clouds drifting across an endless sky, present but not demanding attention, soft and translucent rather than heavy and compelling. One morning, she arrived at the hall in complete despair. She sat on her cushion and simply gave up. She stopped trying to control her thoughts, stopped fighting with her mind, stopped trying to achieve any particular stati. She just sat, allowing whatever was present to be exactly as it was. The silent master's breathing becomes so quiet that the hall seems to breathe around him rather than through him. The very air feels saturated with peaceful presence. In that moment of complete surrender, something shifted. Her thoughts didn't disappear, but they became like fish swimming in clear water, visible but not disturbing the essential clarity of the medium they moved through. She realized that the peace she had been seeking was not the absence of thoughts, but the clear awareness in which all thoughts arose and dissolved. You feel this understanding dawning in your own experience. Your mind is not becoming empty, but it is becoming spacious like a vast hall in which thoughts can come and go without creating disturbance. This is the secret of the clear water mind, the master continues. We do not achieve peace by stopping the natural movement of consciousness. We discover peace by recognizing to his still awareness that is always present, like the depths of the ocean that remain calm even when waves dance on the surface. The hall around you seems to expand and contract gently as if breathing with some cosmic rhythm. Your sense of where your body ends and the space begins is softening, dissolving into a field of peaceful awareness. Feel this now, the silent master whispers. Notice the awareness that is aware of these words, the consciousness that is conscious of this moment. This awareness is not troubled by thoughts, not disturbed by sounds, not affected by the changing contents of experience. It is like clear water, transparent, present, unchanging in its essential nature. Your breathing has become so subtle that you feel as though you are being breathed by the universe itself. Each inhalation draws in clarity and peace. Each exhalation releases into the vast stillness that surrounds and fills you. Sleep comes naturally to the clear water mind, the master says, highest voice, now barely distinguishable from the silence itself. In sleep, we return to this natural state of awareness, present but unattached, conscious but not controlling. Rest now in this knowing. Let your mind become like perfectly still water, reflecting the infinite sky of your true nature. The silent master returns to his wordless meditation, his presence continuing to radiate peace throughout the hall. You feel held in this cocoon of accumulated tranquility, supported by generations of seekers who have found rest in this very space. The wooden hall cradles you like a loving parent, the ancient beams holding space for your complete relaxation. You are no longer sitting on a cushion, but floating in an ocean of stillness, supported by the clear water consciousness. That is your deepest nature. As you leave the meditation hall behind you, find yourself stepping into a serene garden that seems to have been touched by the very essence of enlightenment itself. This garden is a sanctuary of peace, where every leaf, every stone, and every gentle breeze carries the wisdom of ages past. The air here is fragrant with the subtle scent of blooming lotus flowers and jasmine mingling with the fresh earthiness of moss-covered stones and ancient trees. The garden is arranged with exquisite care, each element placed with mindful intention to create a harmonious balance between nature and spirit. You walk slowly along a winding path lined with smooth river stones, feeling the gentle crunch beneath your feet. The path leads you to a magnificent Bodhi tree, its broad leaves shimmering softly in the dappled sunlight. This tree, ancient and wise, has witnessed countless seekers find their way to awakening beneath its protective branches. Near the base of the Bodhi tree, a small stone statue of the Buddha sits in quiet meditation, its serene face radiating compassion and understanding. The statue seems to glow with an inner light, inviting you to pause and reflect on the teachings it represents. As you settle onto a smooth stone bench nearby, the gentle rustling of leaves and the distant song of birds create a natural symphony that soothes your mind and heart. Here in this sacred space, you are invited to contemplate the profound lessons of enlightenment. The story begins with a young monk named Ananda, who once struggled with impatience and doubt on his path. Ananda was eager to attain enlightenment quickly, but the teachings reminded him that awakening is not a destination, but a journey of gradual unfolding. One day, Ananda sat beneath the Bodhi tree, feeling frustrated by his perceived lack of progress. A wise elder approached and shared a parable. Imagine a lotus flower. The elder said, "That grows slowly from the depths of the muddy pond. It pushes through the murky water, reaching toward the light. It does not rush, nor does it resist the process. It simply grows, unfolding its petals one by one until it blooms in perfect beauty." The elder continued, "So too is the path to enlightenment. It requires patience, trust, and gentle perseverance. Each moment of mindfulness, each act of compassion is a petal unfolding in the light of wisdom." As you listen to this story, feel the truth of the lotus flower within your own heart. Know that your journey is unfolding exactly as it should, with perfect timing and grace. The garden around you seems to breathe with ancient wisdom. Every flower, every stone placement, every curve of the path speaks to a deeper understanding of harmony and balance. The Bodhi tree above you has stood here for over 300 years, its roots extending deep into the earth, drawing nourishment from the same soil that has supported countless generations of seekers. The elder in Ananda's story smiled gently and continued his teaching. "You see, young monk, the lotus does not compare itself to other flowers. It does not rush to bloom because the orchid beside it has already opened its petals. It does not despair because the water lily bloomed yesterday while it remains closed today. The lotus knows its own season, its own rhythm, its own perfect timing." Ananda felt these words settling into his heart like seeds planted in fertile ground. The elder gestured to the pond nearby, where actual lotus flowers floated in various stages of growth. Some still tight buds, deep underwater, others pushing toward the surface, and several in full bloom, their white and pink petals opened like gentle hands offering themselves to the sky. "Look closely at the lotus in full bloom," the elder whispered. "See how its roots are buried deep in the mud at the bottom of the pond. Without this dark, rich foundation, there could be no flower. The lotus does not deny its origins in the mud. It transforms the mud into beauty. This is the greatest teaching. Our difficulties, our struggles, our moments of confusion are not obstacles to enlightenment. They are the very soil from which our wisdom grows." Your breathing deepens as you absorb this profound truth. The garden around you seems to echo this teaching. You notice how the most beautiful flowers grow from what appears to be ordinary earth, how the mighty Bodhi tree springs from what was once just a small seed that fell into darkness before reaching toward light. The elder continued his teaching to Ananda. There was once a farmer who planted lotus seeds in 2 different ponds. In the first pond, the water was crystal clear, the bottom lined with pure white sand. In the second pond, the water was murky, the bottom thick with rich, dark mud. The farmer was sure the lotus would thrive in the clean, pure pond. The gentle sound of water trickling from a small fountain mingles with the elder's voice, creating a natural rhythm that slows your heartbeat and deepens your relaxation. But seasons passed, and while the seed in the clear pond remained a seed, the lotus in the muddy pond grew strong and beautiful, producing the most magnificent of flowers anyone had ever seen. The farmer was puzzled until a wise teacher explained, "The lotus needs the rich nutrients found only in the mud. Purity alone cannot create beauty. Struggle transformed through wisdom becomes the most exquisite flowering." Ananda understood immediately. His impatience, his doubts, his feelings of inadequacy were not evidence of failure. They were the rich soil from which his enlightenment would eventually bloom. He no longer saw his struggles as problems to be solved, but as perfect conditions for growth. The garden seems to shimmer with this understanding. You feel a profound shift in your own perception, recognizing that every challenge you have faced, every moment of confusion or difficulty, has been preparing the ground for your own flowering of wisdom and peace. As the sun continues its gentle descent toward the horizon, the golden light filtering through the Bodhi leaves creates patterns of illumination that dance across the garden like living mandalas. Each shadow and beam of light seems perfectly placed part of a cosmic design, too beautiful and complex for the mind to fully grasp, but which the heart recognizes immediately. The elder's final words to Ananda float through your consciousness like gentle music. Remember, dear friend, that enlightenment is not something you achieve by becoming different from who you are. It is the recognition of what you have always been. Like the lotus, you are already perfect in your essential nature. The blooming is simply the revelation of this pre-existing beauty. The statue of the Buddha seems to nod slightly in the golden light, its expression of infinite compassion, embracing all beings in their various stages of awakening. You feel held in this compassion, accepted completely as you are, while simultaneously supported in your natural unfolding toward greater peace and wisdom. Your body feels incredibly relaxed now, every muscle soft and at ease, every breath drawing you deeper into this garden sanctuary. The boundary between yourself and the peaceful environment around you continues to soften until you feel less like a separate visitor to the garden and more like a flower that has always belonged here, rooted in the same earth, reaching toward the same sky. The fountain's gentle bubbling becomes a lullaby that seems to arise from the earth itself. The sound mingles with the soft rustle of leaves, the distant chiming of temple bells, and the almost imperceptible hum of life force energy that flows through all living things. As twilight approaches, the garden takes on an even more magical quality. Fireflies begin to appear among the flowers, their soft light blinking like tiny stars fallen to earth. The air grows cooler and more fragrant, carrying the evening perfume of night-blooming jasmine and the clean scent of dew beginning to form on the grass. You rest now in complete trust, knowing that your own enlightenment is unfolding in perfect timing, just as surely as the lotus blooms when its season arrives. The garden holds you in its eternal embrace, a living reminder that peace and wisdom are not distant goals to be achieved, but present realities to be recognized and allowed to flower naturally. Sleep comes as gently as nightfall in this sacred garden, carrying you deeper into the sanctuary of your own awakened heart, where the lotus of your true nature blooms in timeless beauty. As evening settles gently over the garden, you notice a figure approaching through the twilight. Walking slowly along the stone path comes an elderly monk whose presence radiates such profound wisdom that the very air around him seems to shimmer with understanding. His robes worn soft by countless years of simple living flow around him like gentle water as he moves with unhurried grace. This is Master Chen, known throughout the monastery as the keeper of ancient stories. His face, deeply lined by decades of compassion and contemplation, bears the unmistakable expression of someone who has discovered the deepest secrets of existence and found them to be surprisingly simple and beautiful. Master Chen carries with him a small wooden tray bearing 2 ceramic cups and a clay teapot that steams gently in the cool evening air. The fragrance of jasmine tea mingles with the garden's natural perfumes, creating an atmosphere of such perfect tranquility that your breath naturally deepens and your muscles relax even further. He settles onto the stone bench beside you with the fluid grace of someone whose every movement has become a meditation. Setting the tray carefully between you, he pours the pale golden tea into both cups, the liquid catching the last rays of sunset like captured light. The sound of tea being poured is incredibly soothing, like a gentle rain falling on leaves. "Welcome, dear friend," Master Chen says, his voice carrying the warm resonance of someone who has spoken only words of kindness for many years. "I have come to share with you one of the most important teachings in all of Buddhist wisdom, the profound freedom that comes from understanding emptiness." He lifts one of the cups and examines it thoughtfully, turning it slowly in his weathered hands. The cup appears ordinary at first glance, simple brown ceramic, unadorned except for its gentle curves and the way it seems to hold light within its form. "This cup," he begins, "holds within it one of the most liberating truths ever discovered. Would you like to hear its story?" Without waiting for an answer, Master Chen begins a tale that seems to emerge from the very depths of ancient wisdom. His voice takes on the rhythm of someone who has told this story countless times, each telling, polishing its truth to an ever brighter shine. Many years ago, there lived a brilliant scholar who had devoted his entire life to studying the Buddhist scriptures. He had memorized thousands of texts, could recite complex philosophical treatises from memory, and was renowned throughout the land for his vast knowledge of Dharma. The tea's warmth spreads through your hands as you hold your own cup, the ceramic radiating comfort that travels up your arms and settles into your chest like a gentle embrace. This scholar had heard of a simple mountain monk who was said to possess extraordinary wisdom, and he decided to visit this teacher to demonstrate his own profound understanding of the Dharma. The scholar climbed for days through treacherous mountain paths, carrying with him scrolls of his own writings and copies of the most sacred texts. Master Chen's breathing is so peaceful that listening to him speak becomes like a meditation in itself. Each word seems to carry its own weight of tranquility, settling into your consciousness like stones dropped into still water. When the scholar finally reached the humble monastery, he was greeted by an ordinary-looking monk in simple robes who invited him to sit for tea. The scholar was somewhat disappointed. He had expected someone more impressive, more obviously enlightened. But he sat politely and began to recite his credentials and accomplishments. The evening air grows cooler, and you feel grateful for the warmth of the tea and the peaceful presence of Master Chen. Fireflies begin to appear in the garden around you, their soft lights blinking like distant stars fallen to earth. The mountain monk listened patiently as the scholar spoke of his many degrees, his published papers, his debates with other learned men. As he listened, the monk began to pour tea into the scholar's cup. He poured slowly, steadily, the golden liquid rising higher and higher in the ceramic vessel. Master Chen demonstrates this action with his own teapot, pouring a slow stream of tea into his cup until it reaches the very brim. The scholar continued talking, growing more and more elaborate in his descriptions of his knowledge, while the monk continued pouring. When the tea reached the rim of the cup, the monk did not stop. He kept pouring, and the tea began to overflow, spilling onto the table, dripping onto the floor. Finally, the scholar stopped speaking and cried out, Stop! Can't you see the cup is full? No more can go in." The mountain monk looked up with eyes that sparkled with gentle humor and said, "Yes, just like your mind. How can I pour any tea of wisdom into a cup that is already full?" The profound simplicity of this teaching settles into your awareness like a key turning in a lock. You feel something shifting in your understanding, a subtle opening that allows new possibilities to emerge. The scholar sat in stunned silence, realizing that his vast accumulation of knowledge had become like walls around his understanding, preventing any fresh insight from entering. His cup of consciousness was so filled with concepts and theories that there was no space for direct experience of truth. Master Chen sets down his teapot and cradles his own cup in both hands, the steam rising from the tea like incense carrying prayers to heaven. "This is the great paradox of wisdom," he continues. "We must become empty before we can be truly full. We must release our attachment to what we think we know before we can discover what we actually are. The cup serves its highest purpose not when it is full, but when it is empty and ready to receive. Your breathing has become so subtle and peaceful that you feel as though you are being breathed by the evening itself. Each exhalation carries away another layer of mental accumulation. Each inhalation creates more space for fresh understanding to emerge." The mountain monk continued his teaching. "See how this empty cup does not cling to the tea that was poured into it yesterday. It does not mourn the loss of last week's wine or pine for tomorrow's water. It simply remains present, open, ready to serve whatever the moment requires. This is the mind of enlightenment, empty of past and future attachment and aversion, but infinitely available to this eternal now." The scholar in the story begins to represent something within yourself. The part that accumulates experiences and knowledge, like trophies that fills the cup of awareness with so many thoughts and opinions that there is no room for fresh insight or spontaneous wisdom. From that day forward, Master Chen continues, the scholar began the practice of emptying his cup daily. Each morning, he would sit in meditation and gently pour out all his assumptions, all his certainties, all his need to know and understand and control. He discovered that as his mind became emptier, his heart became fuller. As he clung less to his ideas, he connected more deeply with life itself. The garden around you seems to echo this teaching. The flowers do not cling to their blooms. The trees do not grasp their leaves. The fountain does not try to hold on to the water that flows through it. Everything in nature demonstrates this principle of joyful non-attachment. There is another story, Master Chen says, his voice growing even softer as the stars begin to appear in the darkening sky above, about a woman who came to this very garden seeking relief from her overwhelming anxiety. She sat where you sit now, her mind racing with endless worries about the future and regrets about the past. You feel this woman's struggle resonating within your own experience, the familiar weight of mental activity, the exhausting cycle of thoughts that seem to chase each other endlessly around the closed circuit of anxious thinking. The woman told the wise teacher about her problems, her difficult relationships, her financial worries, her health concerns, her fear that she was not living up to her potential. The list seemed endless, each worry connected to 10 others in an overwhelming web of mental complexity. The teacher listened with complete attention, then asked the woman to look at her reflection in the still water of the fountain. "What do you see?" he asked. "I see myself surrounded by all my problems," she replied. The teacher picked up a small stone and dropped it into the water, creating ripples that distorted the reflection. "And now, what do you see?" "Nothing clear," she answered. "Just movement and confusion." Master Chen pauses, allowing the teaching to settle into your awareness like sediment sinking to the bottom of clear water. "This is what happens to the mind," the teacher explained, "when we drop the stones of our worries into the still water of awareness. The natural clarity becomes disturbed and we can no longer see our true reflection. But watch what happens when we stop throwing stones." Together they sat in silence, watching as the ripples gradually subsided and the water returned to perfect stillness. The woman's reflection reappeared clear and undistorted. "The water was never really disturbed," the teacher said gently. "Only the surface was affected. The depths remained perfectly calm throughout." This teaching penetrates to the very core of your being. You recognize the truth of it in your own experience. That beneath all the mental activity and emotional turbulence, there exists a fundamental stillness that remains always present, always accessible. The woman understood that her problems were like the stones. They created disturbance only when she kept throwing them into the pool of her awareness. When she learned to set them aside, to stop feeding them with constant attention and worry, the natural peace of her mind revealed itself. Your own mental activity has become like gentle ripples on a vast lake, present but not disturbing the essential stillness that you're beginning to recognize as your true nature. The empty cup of your awareness is ready to receive whatever this moment offers without grasping or pushing away. "Sleep," Master Chen whispers, "is the natural state of the empty cup. In sleep, we release our grip on all the contents of consciousness and return to the spacious awareness that is our original nature. Rest now in this emptiness that is so full, this silence that contains all sounds, this peace that surpasses all understanding. The tea has grown cool in your hands, but the warmth in your heart continues to spread through your entire being. Master Chen's presence blesses you with the accumulated wisdom of countless generations of awakened beings who have discovered the profound freedom of the empty cup." As Master Chen's gentle presence continues to fill the garden with wisdom, he sets down his empty teacup and gestures toward a small pavilion that you hadn't noticed before, nestled among flowering cherry trees whose pale pink blossoms drift like snow in the gentle evening breeze. The pavilion is constructed of weathered bamboo and natural wood, its simple design embodying the essential beauty that emerges when human craft harmonizes perfectly with nature's patterns. "Come," Master Chen invites softly, "let us participate in the ancient ritual of tea ceremony, where each gesture becomes a prayer, each sip a moment of perfect presence. This is where we learn to find the infinite within the ordinary, the sacred within the simple." As you walk together toward the pavilion, your feet naturally fall into the slow, mindful rhythm that has become second nature during your time in this monastery. The wooden floors of the pavilion are worn smooth by countless tea ceremonies, polished to a gentle gleam that reflects the soft light of paper lanterns hanging from the bamboo rafters. In the center of the pavilion sits a low wooden table, its surface bearing the accumulated patina of years of devoted use. Upon this table, the implements of tea ceremony are arranged with exquisite care. A cast iron kettle whose dark surface gleams like a moonless night sky. Small ceramic cups so delicate They seem to have been formed from crystallized silence and a bamboo whisk worn smooth by generations of gentle use. Master C. Hen moves around the table with movements so fluid and graceful that he appears to be dancing rather than preparing tea. Every gesture is deliberate, yet effortless, purposeful, yet relaxed. His hands seem to know the ceremony so intimately that conscious thought is unnecessary. This is meditation in motion mindfulness expressed through the poetry of simple actions. The way of tea. He begins his voice harmonizing with the gentle bubbling of water beginning to heat in the iron kettle. Teaches us that enlightenment is not found in extraordinary experiences, but in bringing complete presence to the most ordinary moments of life. When we can make tea with the same reverence that others reserve for prayer, when we can sip with the same attention that scholars bring to sacred texts, then every moment becomes a gateway to awakening. The sound of water gradually approaching the perfect temperature creates a natural soundtrack to his words. First, the tiny bubbles forming at the bottom of the kettle. Then the gentle singing as the water begins to move, building toward the soft crescendo that signals readiness. Master Chen listens to this progression with the focused attention of a musician tuning an instrument. There is an ancient story, he continues while carefully measuring tea leaves into a ceramic pot, about a young monk who was assigned to prepare tea for his master each morning. The monk felt this task was beneath his spiritual aspirations. He longed to study advanced texts, to engage in profound philosophical discussions, to experience dramatic spiritual revelations. Each tea leaf that falls into the pot seems to carry its own small blessing, the accumulated sunlight and rain of its growing season, now ready to offer its essence in service of this moment. The leaves are dark green, tightly rolled, holding within their compressed forms the promise of transformation through the alchemy of hot water. Day after day, the young monk prepared the tea mechanica. Lie his mind elsewhere, dreaming of more important spiritual work. He moved through the motions without presence, pouring water and steeping leaves, while his attention wandered to imagined futures and rehearsed conversations. The tea he produced was adequate, but it lacked soul. Master Chen pauses in his preparation to test the water temperature by holding his hand above the kettle, his weathered palm reading the invisible signals of steam and heat with the sensitivity of someone who has performed this ritual thousands of times. Satisfied, he lifts the kettle with both hands, its weight and warmth connecting him to the element of fire that has transformed ordinary water into something ready to awaken the sleeping essence of the tea leaves. One morning, the master called the young monk to sit beside him during the tea preparation. "Show me how you make tea," the master requested. The monk began his usual routine, reaching for the kettle with one hand, while his eyes wandered to the birds outside the window. The first pour of water into the teapot creates a sound like gentle rain on leaves, and immediately the air fills with the most exquisite fragrance. Earthy, yet floral, complex, yet subtle, ancient, yet fresh. This aroma seems to bypass the thinking mind entirely and speak directly to some deeper part of your being that recognizes the sacred in the simplest of earthly pleasures. "Stop," said the master gently. "You are not making tea. You are going through the motions of making tea while your spirit is somewhere else entirely. Let me show you the difference." The master took the kettle in both hands, holding it as though it contained liquid light. He breathed with the steam, moved with the rhythm of the water, became one with the entire process. Master Chen demonstrates this presence as he speaks, his entire being focused on the simple act of pouring water. The streamer of water falling into the pot becomes a meditation, its sound and movement capturing his complete attention. There is nothing in this moment except the meeting of water and tea, the beginning of an ancient dance of transformation. The master poured water with such complete attention that the young monk could feel the difference in the very air around them. This was not just the preparation of a beverage. This was a sacred offering, a communion with the elements, a prayer made manifest through mindful action. As the tea steeps, Master Chen settles into the meditation posture that has become as natural to him as breathing. His spine rises like incense smoke toward the evening sky. His hands rest in perfect balance on his knees. His face reflects the deep contentment of someone who has found the extraordinary within the ordinary. "Now," said the master to his student, "you understand why I gave you this task. I was not asking you to prepare tea. I was inviting you to practice enlightenment. Every morning you had the opportunity to experience the same presence that Buddha brought to his meditation under the Bodhi tree. But you were looking for enlightenment somewhere else, in some future moment, in some more impressive activity. The fragrance of the steeping tea grows richer and more complex, like a symphony developing its themes. You can smell the mountain soil where the tea plants grew, the mist that watered their leaves, the careful hands that picked each bud at the perfect moment of ripeness. This simple cup of tea carries within it the entire universe: sun and rain, earth and air, human care and natural grace. The young monk felt something shift within his understanding. He realized that he had been treating the tea ceremony as a distraction from his spiritual practice, when, in truth, it was his spiritual practice. Every moment of preparation was an opportunity for presence, every sip a chance to commune with the divine nature that expresses itself through the simplest experiences. Master Chen begins the next phase of the ceremony slowly, and deliberately cleaning each cup with movements so graceful they seem choreographed by some cosmic intelligence. His attention to each detail is complete yet effortless, like watching water flow around stones in a stream. From that day forward, the young monk's tea became legendary throughout the monastery. Visitors would travel great distances just to share in the tea ceremony he conducted, not because he had learned any new techniques, but because he brought such complete presence to each gesture that drinking his tea became a direct transmission of mindfulness. The gentle ritual of cleaning and warming the cups creates its own rhythm, a meditation in motion that seems to slow time itself. Each movement flows into the next with perfect timing, creating a seamless dance between human intention and natural grace. The master taught him that this is the true secret of the way of tea. It is not about the quality of the leaves or the skill of the preparation, though these things have their place. The real magic happens when the server brings such complete presence to each moment that the ordinary transformation of leaves and water becomes a gateway to extraordinary awareness. Master Chen lifts the teapot and begins to pour the golden liquid into the first cup. The tea moves in a perfect arc from pot to cup, its color resembling liquid amber, its movement hypnotic in its simple beauty. The sound it makes touching the ceramic is like gentle bells, pure and clear and infinitely soothing. "Watch this pouring," he says softly. See how the tea knows exactly how to flow, requiring no instruction from my mind. The tea is not trying to become anything other than what it is. It does not rush toward the cup, nor does it resist leaving the pot. It simply follows its nature, and in doing so, achieves perfect grace. As he fills the second cup, then the third, you begin to understand that you are witnessing more than a beverage being served. This is a demonstration of Wu Wei, effortless action, the natural flow of being that emerges when we stop forcing and start flowing with the fundamental patterns of existence. This is how we can live our entire lives. Master Chen continues, setting the teapot down with infinite care. When we stop trying to control every outcome, when we release our grip on how things should be, we discover that life flows through us with the same natural grace that tea flows from pot to cup. He lifts one of the cups with both hands, cradling it as though it contains the most precious treasure. The steam rising from the tea catches the lantern light, creating small spirals of luminous vapor that seem to carry the essence of the moment upward into the gathering darkness. Before we drink, we pause to appreciate what we are about to receive. This tea represents the collaboration of countless beings. The farmers who tended the plants, the hands that picked the leaves, the rain that watered the earth, the sun that powered tea growth. In this simple cup, the entire universe has conspired to offer us this moment of nourishment. Your own hands receive the warm cup he offers, and immediately you feel the connection he speaks of. The ceramic holds not just tea, but the accumulated care and attention of everyone who participated in bringing this moment into being. The warmth travels from the cup through your palms and into your heart, creating a circuit of gratitude that seems to connect you to all of life. Now we drink not to satisfy thirst, but to practice presence. Each sip is an opportunity to be completely here, completely now. Feel the temperature of the tea, taste its complexity, notice how it changes as it moves across your palate. Let drinking become a meditation on impermanence. This exact taste will never exist again. This precise moment is utterly unique. The first sip of tea is like tasting liquid serenity. The flavor is incredibly complex. Earthy undertones supporting floral high notes with hints of sweetness that appear and disappear like shy spirits. But more than the taste is the quality of presence that surrounds the drinking. Time seems to slow, allowing you to experience each sensation with unprecedented clarity. There was once a tea master. Master Chen continues between his own mindful sips, who was challenged to demonstrate the essence of enlightenment to a group of skeptical scholars. Instead of giving a lecture or performing dramatic feats, he simply prepared and served tea with such complete presence that everyone in the room fell silent. The tea continues to reveal new dimensions with each sip. What seemed simple at first proves to contain layers upon layers of subtle complexity, like looking into still water and discovering unexpected depths. One of the scholars asked, "Master, where in this tea ceremony did you demonstrate enlightenment?" The tea master smiled and replied, "In every moment when I was completely here instead of somewhere else. In every gesture performed with love instead of hurry. In every breath shared with gratitude instead of taking. Enlightenment is not a special state that some people achieve. It is the natural condition that emerges when we stop being anywhere except exactly where we are. Your breathing has synchronized with the gentle rhythm of drinking tea, creating a natural meditation that requires no effort or technique. Each inhalation brings in the fragrant steam, each exhalation releases into the peaceful evening air. The boundary between yourself and this moment continues to soften until you feel less like someone having an experience and more like the experience itself. Sleep comes naturally to those who have mastered the art of presence. Master Chen whispers, his voice becoming as soft as the steam rising from the tea. In sleep, we practice the ultimate letting go, releasing control of consciousness itself, trusting the natural wisdom of the body to restore and renew itself without any intervention from the thinking mind. The tea ceremony has created a cocoon of perfect presence around you both. The pavilion feels like a small island of peace, floating in an ocean of infinite tranquility. The sounds of the monastery settling into evening create a gentle symphony, distant chanting, the soft footsteps of monks walk meditation, the whisper of wind through bamboo. As you prepare for sleep tonight, Master Chen continues, remember that rest is not the absence of practice, but the deepest practice of all. In sleep, we demonstrate complete trust in the universe, complete surrender to the mystery of being. We show our willingness to let go of all our attempts to control and manage our experience. The last sip of tea seems to contain all the wisdom of the ceremony compressed into a single perfect moment. As the warm liquid completes its journey from cup to lips to body, you feel blessed by the simple miracle of being alive in a universe that offers such profound beauty through the most ordinary experiences. Rest now, dear friend, in the same presence you brought to drinking this tea. Let sleep come as naturally as tea flows from pot to cup. Trust the ancient wisdom of your body, surrender to the loving embrace of night, and allow your dreams to carry you deeper into the monastery of peace that exists within your own awakened heart. Master Chen begins to clear the tea implements with the same mindful attention he brought to their use, each movement a continuation of the meditation rather than its conclusion. The ceremony doesn't end, it simply transforms into the peaceful preparation for what comes next, demonstrating that every moment can be approached with the same sacred presence that we bring to formal spiritual practice. As the tea ceremony concludes and the gentle evening settles more deeply around the monastery, Master Chen rises from his position with the fluid grace of someone whose every movement has become a meditation. He gestures toward a narrow path that winds upward through the trees, disappearing into the misty heights above, where the ancient monastery continues its climb toward the stars. "Come," he says softly, his voice carrying the quality of mountain air itself, thin, pure, and mysteriously refreshing. "Our journey together is not yet complete. There is someone I would like you to meet, a teacher whose wisdom can only be found in the highest reaches of this sacred mountain." The path upward is carved from living stone, each step worn smooth by countless pilgrims who have made this ascent over the centuries. As you begin to climb, you notice that the air becomes progressively cleaner and more rarefied, carrying scents of pine resin, snow-touched peaks, and something indefinable that can only be described as the fragrance of vast space itself. The monastery buildings seem to grow organically from the mountainside as you ascend, each structure perfectly integrated with the natural contours of the Ro-C-K and forest. Terraced gardens cascade down the slopes, their careful arrangement creating a harmony between human cultivation and wild nature that speaks to some deep wisdom about living in balance with the earth. Master Chen's pace is unhurried but steady, his breathing so natural and effortless that climbing seems to require no more effort than walking on level ground. His decades of life at this altitude have adapted his body perfectly to the mountain environment, and his presence radiates the kind of deep peace that comes from living in constant communion with the vast perspectives that only height can provide. The teacher we are going to visit, Master Chen explains as you climb, has not spoken a word in over 20 years. He sits in meditation at the very highest point of our monastery in a small cave that overlooks 3 valleys and 7 mountain ranges. Yet, in his silence, he has become one of the most profound teachers our community has ever known. The path curves around a massive boulder, and suddenly the vista opens to reveal a breathtaking panorama of mountain peaks stretching endlessly into the distance. Range upon range of ancient mountains roll away toward the horizon like frozen waves on an ocean of stone, their peaks catching the last light of day and reflecting it back as gentle golden fire. This is why we build monasteries in the mountains, Master Chen says, pausing to allow you both to absorb the magnificent view. The perspective changes everything. Problems that seemed enormous at the bottom of the mountain reveal their true size when seen from this height. Worries that felt overwhelming in the valley become as small as insects when viewed from these peaks. Your breathing naturally deepens in response to the thinner air and the overwhelming beauty of the landscape. Each inhalation seems to draw in not just oxygen, but space itself. The vast openness of sky and mountain that surrounds you on all sides. The normal boundaries of SELF begin to soften as your awareness expands to match the immensity of the view. There is a story, Master Chen continues as you resume climbing, about why our silent master chose to take his vow of wordlessness. He was once the most eloquent teacher in all the monastery, renowned for his beautiful Dharma talks and his ability to explain the most complex teachings with perfect clarity. The path becomes steeper, now carved into switchbacks that allow for a more gradual ascent up the sheer face of the mountain. Prayer flags strung between wooden posts flutter in the mountain breeze, their bright colors, red, blue, white, green, and yellow, creating small celebrations of joy against the austere beauty of stone and sky. Students would travel from distant lands just to hear him speak about the nature of suffering and the path to liberation. His words were like clear mountain streams flowing with such purity and power that listeners felt their understanding deepen with every sentence. He was considered one of the great Dharma teachers of his generation. The wind at this altitude carries a different quality, thinner, cleaner, somehow more alive than the air below. It moves through the prayer flags with a sound like gentle applause, and through the pine trees with whispers that seem to speak in ancient languages about truths too vast for ordinary words. But one day, during a particularly profound teaching about the nature of emptiness, something shifted within him. As he spoke about how all phenomena are inherently empty of separate existence, how all boundaries are ultimately illusory, he suddenly stopped mid-sentence. His students waited, thinking he was pausing for effect, but the silence stretched on and on. You can feel the monastery buildings below becoming smaller and more distant, like toys in a vast landscape. The perspective shift is both physical and psychological. The concerns and activities of daily life taking on a dreamlike quality when seen from this elevated vantage point. Later, he explained to his closest students that in that moment of teaching about emptiness, he had realized the ultimate emptiness of his own words. Not that his teachings were wrong or worthless, but that the truth he was trying to convey was so immediate, so present, so beyond the reach of language, that continuing to speak about it felt like pointing at the moon with an increasingly elaborate series of fingers. The path levels out briefly as you reach a small plateau where a simple wooden shelter has been built against the mountain wall. Inside, a small shrine holds offerings left by previous pilgrims. Wild flowers that have dried to papery beauty. Small stones carved with mantras, pieces of cloth tied with prayers and hopes. He realized that his most powerful teaching was not what he said, but what he was. His presence, refined by decades of practice and deepened by constant communion with these mountain heights, communicated far more effectively than any words could express. So, he chose silence not as an end to his teaching, but as the beginning of his truest Dharma transmission. Master Chen pauses at the shrine to light a stick of incense, its smoke rising straight up in the still mountain air like a prayer made visible. The fragrance is sandalwood mixed with something wilder. The scent of mountain herbs and high-altitude flowers that bloom only in these rarefied regions. Students still come to sit with him. Master Chen continues. They climb this same path you are climbing now, often carrying great burdens of suffering, seeking answers to questions that seem impossible to resolve. They sit in his presence sometimes for hours, sometimes for days, and discover that their questions begin to dissolve, not because they have been answered, but because they have been understood at a level deeper than words. As you continue climbing, the quality of light begins to change. The sun has disappeared behind the western peak, but its reflected glow still illuminates the sky, creating that magical hour when the world seems suspended between day and night reality and dream. The first stars are beginning to appear in the deepening blue above. The mountain teaches its own lessons. Master Chen observes, every step upward requires effort, yet that effort becomes effortless when we find the right rhythm, the right relationship with gravity and breath and stone. The mountain does not pull us upward. We must choose each step. Yet, once we begin climbing, the mountain supports us completely, offering handholds and footholds exactly where we need them. The metaphor resonates deeply as you continue the ascent. The spiritual path, like this mountain climb, requires both effort and surrender, both determination and trust. Each step must be chosen and taken individually, yet the mountain of wisdom supports every sincere attempt to reach higher understanding. This is also the nature of working with suffering. Master Chen continues, his voice taking on the quality of wind moving through high places. We cannot simply think our way out of pain any more than we can think our way to the top of this mountain. We must take actual steps, make real movement, engage with the path moment by moment. Yet, when we do, we discover that the mountain of practice supports us completely. The path becomes narrower now, carved along a ledge that offers views of dizzying depth into the valley below. Far beneath, the lights of distant villages twinkle like fallen stars, reminding you of the vast scale of the world and your small but precious place within it. There was once a woman who climbed this very path, carrying a grief so heavy that each step felt like lifting boulders. Master Chen shares. She had lost her child to illness and felt that life had become meaningless, that nothing could ever bring comfort or peace again. She climbed slowly, stopping frequently to rest, but something about the mountain kept calling her upward. Your own steps have found their rhythm now, each placement of foot on stone becoming automatic, allowing your mind to rest in the steady cadence of movement. The repetitive nature of climbing creates its own meditation, a moving mantra of step, breathe, that gradually quiets the mental chatter and opens space for deeper awareness. When she finally reached the silent master's cave, she was exhausted physically and emotionally. She had no energy left for formalities or explanations. She simply collapsed in front of him and wept with the abandon of someone who has reached the absolute limit of her endurance. The cave master Chen speaks of becomes visible ahead, a natural hollow in the cliff face that has been enhanced with simple wooden additions to create a tiny hermitage. Warm light glows from within, and you can see the silhouette of a figure sitting in perfect stillness, facing outward toward the infinite expanse of sky and mountain. His silent master said nothing, of course, but his presence somehow contained her grief without trying to fix it or change it. He sat with her sorrow as naturally as the mountain sits with weather, not resisting the storm, not trying to make it pass quickly, but simply providing solid, unwavering support while the emotional weather moved through. As you approach the cave, you can feel the profound peace that emanates from this holy place. The silent master's decades of meditation have saturated the very stones with tranquility, creating a field of stillness so strong that your own mind automatically settles into deeper quiet. For 3 days, she sat with him in silence, her grief slowly transforming from a crushing weight into something more like a deep river, still present, still flowing, but no longer threatening to drown her. On the 3rd evening, as they sat watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and rose, she suddenly understood something that changed everything. The silent master turns slightly as you approach, his weathered face illuminated by the soft light from an oil lamp. His eyes are like mountain lakes, deep, clear, reflecting sky, but revealing depths that seem to go down forever. Though he speaks no words, his gaze conveys such complete acceptance and understanding that you feel welcomed into a space of profound safety. She realized that her love for her child had not died with the child's body. That love was still present, still flowing, still connecting her to something infinite and eternal. The grief was not the opposite of love. It was love itself continuing to flow, even when its original channel had been changed by circumstances beyond her control. You settle onto a simple cushion placed near the cave entrance, the stone beneath, worn smooth by countless others who have come seeking the wisdom that silence can provide. The view from here encompasses what feels like half the world, endless ranges of mountains fading into blue distance valleys hidden in shadow, and above it all a sky now brilliant with stars. The silent master taught her without words that this is how the mountain holds its weather. Rain comes and goes, snow falls and melts, storms rage and pass, but the mountain remains constant. Not because it resists change, but because it has found its true nature beneath all the temporary conditions that affect its surface. The night air at this altitude is crisp and clean, carrying scents of snow and stone and the subtle fragrance of high-altitude plants. Your breathing naturally becomes slower and deeper, each inhalation drawing in the peace of vast spaces, each exhalation releasing into the infinite openness that surrounds you. She descended the mountain a changed person, not because her grief had disappeared, but because she had learned to carry it differently. Like the mountain carries weather, she could now hold her sorrow within a larger context of love and acceptance. The Pa-in was still present, but it no longer defined her entire experience. The silent master's breathing is so subtle that he seems almost motionless, like a natural feature of the mountain itself. Yet his presence radiates such profound aliveness that the air around him seems to shimmer with awareness. This is what humans become when they align completely with their deepest nature, not separate from the world, but expressions of its fundamental wisdom. This is the teaching of the mountain monastery. Master Chen whispers his voice barely audible above the gentle night wind. We do not come here to escape the valleys below, but to gain the perspective that transforms our experience of them. We don't climb to avoid difficulty, but to develop the strength and vision that allows us to meet difficulty with grace. Your body feels perfectly relaxed now, supported by the stone and cushion held in the embrace of mountain peace. The boundary between yourself and the vast night sky continues to dissolve until you feel less like someone sitting on a mountain and more like awareness itself, naturally present, effortlessly aware at home in the infinite space of being. Sleep comes easily at this altitude. Master Chen continues, not because of the thin air, but because the enormous perspective naturally releases the small concerns that usually keep the mind active. When you can see 3 valleys and 7 mountain ranges, when you can feel yourself as part of something truly vast and eternal, the problems that seemed so urgent below reveal themselves as temporary weather in the endless sky of being. The silent master's presence seems to bless your approaching rest with the accumulated power of his decades of meditation. His silence speaks more eloquently than words ever could about the peace that is always available when we learn to rest in our true nature, as constant and reliable as the mountains themselves. Rest now, dear friend, held in the embrace of these ancient peaks, supported by stone that has weathered countless storms and still stands in perfect dignity. Let your dreams carry you even higher into the realm of pure awareness, where all suffering is revealed as clouds passing through the infinite sky of your awakened heart. As the profound silence of the mountain cave embraces you, both the silent master slowly rises from his meditation posture with movements so graceful they seem like a natural phenomenon. Wind stirring leaves, water flowing over stones. Without speaking, he gestures toward a path that leads down the far side of the mountain, different from the route you climbed to reach this sacred height. Master Chen understands immediately and nods with deep reverence. Our teacher is guiding us to the river of compassion. He explains softly, his voice barely disturbing the crystalline stillness of the high mountain air. It is said that this waterway carries within its flow the accumulated loving kindness of all beings who have ever practiced compassion along its banks. The descent begins gently following a path that seems to spiral down the mountain like a prayer wheel unwinding its blessings into the world below. Each step takes you deeper into a different realm of the monastery's teachings, away from the vast perspectives of the heights toward the intimate wisdom of flowing water. As you walk, the sound begins to reach you, At first, just a whisper on the wind, so subtle you might mistake it for your own breathing. But gradually, as the path winds lower through groves of prayer flag-decorated trees, the sound grows more distinct, the gentle murmur of water finding its way through stone, the eternal song of a mountain stream following gravity's call toward the valleys below. The trees begin to change as you descend, the hardy pines of the heights giving way to more diverse vegetation. Rhododendrons with waxy leaves that catch starlight, bamboo groves that rustle like whispered mantras, and ancient willows whose trailing branches seem to reach toward the earth in gestures of infinite blessing. The River of Compassion. Master Chen explains as you walk, is not just a physical waterway, though the stream itself is indeed sacred. It represents the natural flow of loving kindness that emerges when the heart opens to its true nature. Just as water naturally flows downhill, compassion naturally flows from awareness toward all forms of suffering. The path curves around a moss-covered boulder, and suddenly the stream reveals itself in the moonlight, a ribbon of silver winding through the forest, its surface catching and reflecting the stars like liquid sky. The sound of water moving over smooth stones creates a natural symphony of such perfect peace that your breathing automatically synchronizes with its rhythm. Beside the stream, a small wooden platform has been built among the roots of a massive willow tree. The platform extends slightly over the water, creating a perfect meditate-on space where one can sit directly above the flowing current. Simple bamboo railings provide gentle support, and a few meditation cushions wait in silent invitation. This is where we learn the deepest teachings about compassion, Master Chen says as he settles onto one of the cushions. Not compassion as an emotion that comes and goes, but compassion as the natural expression of wisdom, as inevitable as water flowing toward the sea. You take your place beside him on the wooden platform, feeling the gentle vibration of the stream flowing beneath. The water's movement creates a constant, subtle massage that seems to release tension from your body at the cellular level. Above the willow branches create a natural cathedral, their long streamers moving in the night breeze like curtains of green benediction. There is an ancient teaching. Master Chen begins his voice blending with the stream's gentle murmur, that the Buddha's compassion is like this river. It flows continuously toward all beings, not because of any effort or decision on his part, but because that is simply the nature of enlightened awareness. It cannot do otherwise, just as water cannot flow uphill. The stream's voice creates layers of sound, the deeper tones of water moving around larger stones, the higher notes of rivulets finding narrow passages, the percussion of tiny droplets falling from one level to another. This natural orchestra seems to carry within it the music of compassion itself, infinitely patient, endlessly generous. I want to share with you the story of Master Liu. Master Chen continues, who once sat in this very spot for an entire season, learning from the stream what all his years of study had failed to teach him about the true nature of compassion. The moonlight on the water creates patterns of light and shadow that shift and dance with hypnotic beauty. Watching the interplay becomes a meditation in itself, drawing your attention into the eternal present moment where the water's movement mirrors the constant flow of awareness itself. Master Liu had been a monk for 40 years, renowned for his vast knowledge of Buddhist philosophy and his ability to recite entire sutras from memory. He understood intellectually that compassion was essential to the path, and he performed acts of kindness regularly, helping other monks with their duties, caring for sick animals, sharing his food with visitors. The sound of the water seems to grow richer as you listen more deeply, revealing subtleties that weren't apparent at first. The different tones created by varying depths, the way the sound changes as the current encounters different obstacles, the underlying constancy that persists through all these variations. But Master Lu felt something was missing from his practice. His compassion felt effortful, something he had to remember to do rather than something that arose naturally. He worried that his kindness was more about following rules than expressing genuine love. So he came to this stream to deepen his understanding. A small fish jumps in the moonlight, creating ripples that spread outward in perfect concentric circles before being absorbed back into the river's flow. The sight is so beautiful and unexpected that it brings a spontaneous smile to your face, a moment of pure joy, arising without cause or effort. For the first week, Master Chen continues. Master Liu tried to meditate on compassion in his usual way, generating feelings of loving kindness through concentration and visualization techniques. He would sit here for hours, working hard to cultivate warmth toward all beings, following the traditional methods he had learned decades earlier. Your breathing has become so peaceful that it feels like the stream itself is breathing through you. Each inhalation draws in the pure energy of flowing water. Each exhalation releases into the eternal circulation that connects all things. But the harder he worked at compassion, the more strained it felt. He began to feel frustrated, wondering why something that was supposed to be natural required so much effort. One evening, as he sat in particularly intense struggle with his practice, an old woman appeared on the path beside the stream. The willow branches above moved gently in the night breeze, creating shifting patterns of starlight that seemed to bless the water with celestial benedictions. The entire scene feels like a living mandala, a perfect arrangement of elements that speaks to some deep wisdom about the interconnectedness of all things. The old woman was clearly in distress, calling out the name of her grandson, who had wandered away from their camp further up the mountain. Master Liu immediately stood to help her search, forgetting completely about his meditation session. For hours they searched together, calling the child's name, checking every possible hiding place. The story flows like the stream itself, carrying you deeper into understanding without effort or strain. You feel yourself becoming part of the tale, experiencing the old woman's worry, Master Liu's immediate response, the natural arising of care without thought or hesitation. When they finally found the little boy asleep under a rhododendron bush, safe and unharmed, the old woman wept with relief and gratitude. Master Liu helped reunite them with their family, ensuring they had food and warm blankets for the night. Only when he returned to his meditation spot hours later did he realize what had happened. A gentle night bird calls from somewhere in the forest, its voice adding another note to the symphony of natural sounds. The call is answered by another bird further away, creating a conversation across the darkness that speaks of connection and community, even in the vast solitude of the mountain wilderness. For hours he had acted with spontaneous, effortless compassion, not because he was trying to practice virtue, but because caring for the distressed grandmother and lost child was simply the natural response of an open heart. There had been no effort, no strain, no sense of performing a spiritual exercise. Compassion had flowed as naturally as the stream itself. The water catches your attention again, and you notice how it navigates around obstacles, not fighting against the rocks in its path, not trying to move them, but simply finding the way around them with fluid grace. The stream teaches perfect acceptance and perfect persistence simultaneously. That night, as Master Liu sat beside the flowing water, he understood for the first time that he had been approaching compassion backwards. He had been trying to manufacture loving kindness through effort and technique, when compassion is actually what remains when we remove the barriers to our natural caring. The insight settles into your awareness like sediment finding its resting place at the bottom of a clear pool. You begin to sense the truth of this teaching in your own experience, that compassion is not something to be created, but something to be uncovered, like clearing debris from a spring to allow the water to flow freely. The stream became his teacher from that night forward. He would sit here each morning and evening, not trying to generate compassion, but simply watching how water naturally flows toward everything in its path. It doesn't discriminate between the beautiful flower and the muddy root. It nourishes both equally simply because that is water's nature. Your heart feels as open as the night sky above, spacious enough to hold all the joys and sorrows of the world without strain or effort. The stream's constant giving, flowing always outward, always toward others, never holding back, becomes a living demonstration of how love moves through an awakened heart. Master Liu realized that his 40 years of studying compassion in books was like studying maps of rivers while never actually touching water. The intellectual understanding was useful, but it could never convey the actual experience of fluidity, of natural flow, of the effortless way water gives itself to whatever it encounters. The platform beneath you seems to pulse gently with the stream's rhythm, and you feel yourself being carried along by currents of peace that run deeper than the physical water below. This is the river of compassion in its truest sense, the flow of loving awareness that moves through all awakened beings. There was another student who came to this place. Master Chen continues, his voice now so soft it seems to emerge from the water itself. A young woman named Mira, who had been deeply wounded by betrayal and cruelty in her past. She had closed her heart as protection against further pain, but the isolation had become its own form of suffering. The stars reflected in the water seemed to pulse with gentle light like cosmic heartbeats, visible in the dark mirror of the stream. Each point of light appears both infinitely distant and intimately present, bridging the gap between vast space and immediate experience. Mira sat by this stream for many nights, angry and bitter, her heart feeling like a stone. She had come to the monastery hoping to find peace, but instead found herself confronting all the pain she had spent years trying to avoid. The gentle sound of flowing water seemed to mock her frozen emotions. You can sense Mira's struggle as if it were your own, the tension between the longing to love and the fear of being hurt, the way trauma can create walls that protect but also imprison. The stream continues its patient teaching, offering the same wisdom to the closed heart as to the open one. One night, as Mira sat in particularly bitter meditation, a small bird fell from its nest into the stream. Without thinking, she reached into the cold water and scooped the tiny creature to safety. As she held the frightened, shivering bird against her chest to warm it, something cracked open in her heart. The image is so vivid and touching that you feel your own heart opening further, recognizing the moment when compassion breaks through our self-imposed barriers, like water finding a crack in stone and slowly, patiently widening the opening until it becomes a flowing spring. The bird's trust, its complete vulnerability in her hands, reminded Mira of her own fundamental nature. Not the defended, careful person she had become, but the naturally loving being she had been before fear taught her to close down. She realized that in protecting herself from pain, she had also cut herself off from love. The stream's voice seems to grow more intimate, as if speaking directly to each person who has ever struggled with the choice between safety and openness, between the known territory of isolation and the vulnerable realm of connection. From that night forward, Mira practiced what she called stream meditation, simply sitting with the flowing water and allowing her heart to gradually as often and open like ice melting in spring. She didn't force the process or judge her pace. She simply trusted that, like water eventually wearing smooth, the hardest stone gentle patience would eventually restore her natural capacity for love. Your own heart feels like it's being polished by the stream's constant blessing, each moment of listening to the water's wisdom wearing away another layer of unnecessary protection, revealing the naturally radiant compassion that has always been present beneath the surface. The beautiful truth Mira discovered is that our hearts, like this stream, are designed to flow. When we dam up our natural compassion out of fear or hurt, the energy doesn't disappear. It simply builds up pressure behind the barriers we've created. But when we gradually allow those barriers to dissolve, love flows forth with even greater power than before. The night has grown deeper and more peaceful, if such a thing is possible. The stream continues its eternal song, indifferent to whether anyone is listening, offering its teaching simply because teaching is what flowing water does. It demonstrates the way of effortless giving, constant renewal, perfect acceptance of whatever lies in its path. Sleep comes easily beside flowing water, Master Chen whispers, because the sound carries us back to our most primal memories of safety and nourishment. Before we were born, we floated in the waters of our mother's womb, sustained by currents of love that flowed to us without effort or earning. The stream reminds us of this original blessing. Your consciousness feels like it's floating now, supported by currents of peace that require no swimming, no effort to stay afloat. The boundary between sleeping and waking begins to dissolve like the line between river and riverbank softening in morning mist. Rest now in the flow of infinite compassion, dear friend. Let the stream carry away any remaining hardness in your heart, any lingering sense that you must earn love or prove your worthiness of care. You are held in the same unconditional embrace that supports every creature who comes to drink from these waters of blessing. The last thing you're aware of before consciousness merges with the eternal flow is the sound of water moving through darkness toward dawn, carrying with it all the prayers and hopes of countless beings flowing always toward the vast ocean of awakened love that is the true source and destination of all compassion. As our 3-hour journey through the sacred monastery of wisdom draws to its gentle close, you have traveled far beyond physical distance. You have walked the ancient paths of mindfulness, sat in the halls of clear awareness, found nourishment in the garden of enlightenment, received the teachings of wise masters, and rested beside the flowing waters of infinite compassion. Each step of this journey has been a meditation, each teaching an invitation to discover the monastery of peace that exists within your own heart. The gates you passed through, the halls where you sat, the gardens where you wandered. All of these sacred spaces live within you, now accessible whenever you choose to turn your attention inward with the same gentle reverence you have practiced tonight. The wisdom you have received is not something foreign or distant. It is a remembering of what you have always known, a recognition of the naturally awakened awareness that is your birthright. Like the lotus that blooms from muddy water, your own enlightenment emerges from the ordinary circumstances of daily life, requiring only the gentle cultivation of presence and compassion. As you rest now in the deepest peace, know that this sanctuary of tranquility travels with you wherever you go. The monk's wisdom lives in your breath. The mountain's perspective dwells in your heart. The stream's compassion flows through your very being. You carry within yourself all the tools needed for a life of greater peace, wisdom, and over. Sleep now, dear friend, in the complete trust that you are exactly where you need to be, precisely as you are. Let your dreams continue this meditation, carrying you even deeper into the infinite space of awakened awareness that is your true home.